Hey guys, it's Lisa, and today we're going to make over a few items, kind of a cottagecore style, and we're going to start with this little bucket. So this bucket is really not old, but it has a little age on it, but I didn't like these brass straps around it, so I felt like this needed to be painted. And I couldn't find the green that I wanted, and so I mixed up some of the color Evergreen, these are Dixie Belle colors, with some buttercream. And I was happy with the color that I got, but then I realized that it's real close to Dixie Belle's kudzu, so I probably could have saved the trouble and just used kudzu on this. But anyway, I gave this 2 coats of this green, both inside and out. And then once I got 2 coats on this and let it dry well, then I took my orbital sander and gave it a heavy distress, because I really wanted this to be heavily distressed. I love this color. It's almost like a buttermilk green. But I wanted it toned down some, so like I said, I gave it a heavy distressing, and then I also went over this with the Van Dyke brown glaze, and that's a Dixie Belle product, but you could use any brown glaze that you wanted, or you could even use a darker wax on this, but I just like the color that you get from the Van Dyke brown glaze. And I really like the way this glaze toned this green down. And then when I finished it, it looked like an old bucket. And it really looked like it had quite a bit of age on it. And my guess is it's probably not over 20 years, but it really looked like a very aged piece when I finished. But because I want this vignette to be more of a cottagecore style, then I felt like this would be a good place to add some transfers. So Dixie Belle has a new transfer set that just has a lot of single flowers on it, and I just decided to put some of those on here. They have more of a retro look, so I just decided to put some of those on here to finish this off. So the name of this particular one is called Vintage Floral Transfer. And I just chose some of those and put them on here in no particular order, just whatever I felt like looked good. And that's one area, I guess, that I struggle with a lot, is how to put these transfers together. Because obviously they don't have a stem or a long enough stem to make a bouquet. So I just kind of placed them where I thought they looked good. And but here are all the little florals that are on this, and I really like this botanical style on this sheet, but I'm going to be using the others because of the retro look. So once I get these on here where I'm happy with them, then I'm also going to be adding this stamp. And this is one that I use all the time from the set I See Paris. That's a redesign by Primus set. But I don't want it all on here, so I'm just taping off what I don't want. And then I'll ink the stamp, remove the tape, and then stamp it on. And that's a good way to get your... To put a partial stamp on and not worry with getting the ink everywhere. And then I have another little script stamp. I don't even know what the name of it is, but because I've had it so long and I use it so much, but it's just a little narrow stamp that is easy to put on different items in places where you wouldn't normally have much room. So I stamped that one on the bottom. And then I felt like it still needed something on the top, so I decided on this stencil, and I'm just going to stencil just this word across the top. And I didn't bother to even see what this word means, but it's my grain stamp, so I just decided to stencil that word only on the top, or those words. And I thought that balanced it well. And now this item is complete. And then the next item that I'm going to be making over is a picture. And this picture already has a retro look, and it was actually 2 of these. And in the process of trying to make these over, I broke one of the glasses. So it'll be, I'll just have to redo it later. But I started out by taking everything out of the frames and cleaning these frames in glass well because they were really dirty. And then I gave them 2 coats of this color. Now what I'm cleaning them with there is alcohol. I usually keep alcohol in a spray bottle because it's good for removing grease and grime and anything that might keep your paint from sticking. So I'll give this 2 coats of this same green and let that dry well. And then after I let these dry well, this one now, dry well, then I'm going to be using that same Van Dyke Brown glaze on this because I want to keep these greens the same. And this, when I used the glaze on this one, it pulled a lot of the paint off as if I were distressing it, so I didn't bother with doing any sanding on this one. I just rubbed hard when I rubbed my brown glaze off, and I got a good distressed look that way. And although I love the look of the floral print that was on the inside, it had some pretty bad staining on it, so I had to find a solution for that. So I just found this old book page. It actually was the back side of some sheet music, some old sheet music. And it's got some aged look to it, but it doesn't have any staining. So what I decided to do here was just very carefully, because this paper is very crisp since it's so old. So I just very carefully tore around this image as close to it as I could. I could have cut it, but I didn't think I would like that look. So I wanted the torn edges here, and I just very carefully tear this out. And then after I tear this out, then I just take my Distress Oxide and distress around the edges. And then that will kind of enunciate where I've torn this, and it just kind of gives it more of a layered look. And I just felt like that would be much better. Now, if I could have cut this design exactly out and just made it look like it was on this paper, then that would work. But since I wasn't able to do that, then I just felt like this was a better option. And then I took that same distress ink and inked up around the edges and kind of feathered it out into the paper so that it would have kind of a more natural aged look, because the paper that I got wasn't quite as aged as I wanted it to be. And once I got this aged the way I wanted it, then I just glued the other image right in the center. But before I did that, I decided that I wanted to add a little bit of extra interest to this piece. So I took my stamp called Kindest Regards, and that's an IOD stamp, and I just put that on the background, and I felt like that added a lot to this piece. And if you don't own this stamp, it's a little bit pricey, but well worth the money. This is one that I use so much. It just works really well for background. And then I just glued that right on, and all I'm using here is Elmer stick glue, or glue sticks, and it sticks plenty that way because I'm going to be putting glass over it anyway, so I don't have to worry about a really, really good adherence here. So I think that really helped this, and then I just put it in the frame, and it was finished. And then for the next item, I just took this little vintage jar that my friend had brought to me, and I really like the look of it, but the lid has, I like the age, but it has a lot of fading, so it just wasn't a pretty look. So this one I think will be easy to make over. So I'm just going to wash the jar well and not bother painting it. And then this lid is what is going to get the makeover here. And I'm mixing half and half the color Tea Rose, which is a Dixie Belle color, and half Apricot, which is also a Dixie Belle color. And I just mix those half and half, and that's the pink that I'll put on this lid. So I'll give this 2 coats and let it dry well. And then I did put a top coat on this one because this chalk paint needs to be sealed, and I'm not going to be using a glaze on this one. So I just sealed it with a top coat. And then after I sealed this, then I'm just going to put another one of my transfers on this one. And then I'll finish it off with another one of my stamps from Icy Paris. And I think that simple makeover of this jar really made a big difference, but it didn't take away from the retro look that it had. So then the next item that I'm going to be doing, and the last item, is this little iron. So if you're not familiar with these, and I think most of you probably are, this is called a flat iron, and it's cast iron. And people used to heat these up on the stove and iron their clothing. But people don't use these, obviously, anymore. But they make incredible door stops or bookends. So I'm just going to paint this a retro color. So I'm using this same pink. I've made these painting them white and giving them more of a French country look. But this one, I wanted to keep it more retro. So although I will be using a French country stamp on this, this color I felt like lends well to more of a cottagecore style of decor. So I give this 2 coats of the color that I mixed, half apricot and half tea rose, and give this 2 coats, let that dry well, and then I'm going to put a top coat on this one also, and I'm just using a Dixie Belle top coat. I get questions about my top coat all the time. Lots of times I'll just spray my item with a clear matte sealer, either Krylon or Rust-Oleum. But this is just a brush-on top coat that Dixie Belle carries, and since I have it, that's what I'm using. So once I get this painted and a top coat on it, then I'm going to be putting a stamp on this one also. And this particular one is from that same set from Redesign called Icy Paris. And I'm just going to stamp that right on the front and stamp some script on there, and then this one will be finished. And now I won't have any trouble selling this one. And there are my items complete. And this snowman that you see, I generally put an ornament at the end of my videos, and I was kind of rushed for time tonight, so in order to get this video out, I'm going to put that on its own separate video. So I'll post that one tomorrow, and so that snowman is what we're going to be making. And there are my other items. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.